Discovering TUT, the saga continues by A.R. Williams. A.R. Williams is a senior writer in National Geographic magazine. This is an extract from one of her articles that featured in National Geographic, Volume 207, Number 6. Some of her popular works include Bamboo Clothing and A Mystery of the Tattooed Mummy. The story deals with the mysteries and various theories regarding the life and death of the youngest ruler of ancient Egypt, Tutankhamun. His tomb was discovered in 1922 by the famous archaeologist Howard Carter, and since then his mummy has been subjected to a X-ray and later a CT scan. These investigations have answered a lot of questions and offered new clues on his life and death. King Tut's father or grandfather, Amenhotep III, was a powerful king who ruled for almost 4 decades. His son, Amenhotep IV, succeeded him. He was a very strange king. He promoted the worship of Aten, the sun disk, and changed his name to Akhenaten. He moved the religious capital from Thebes to Akhenaten, now known as Amarna. He shocked the country by attacking a major god Amun by breaking his images and closing down his temples. Ray Johnson, director of the University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor, called the king very odd. It must have been a terrible time for the people because the family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end. After Akhenaten's death, Smenkhkare, a mysterious ruler, ruled for a brief period and departed with hardly any sign. It was then that a very young king, Tutankhaten, took over the throne. The boy soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, known as King Tut today. He oversaw the revival of the old ways. King Tut ruled for 9 years and then died unexpectedly. At 6 p.m. on 5th January 2005, the world's most famous mummy was taken out from its burial tomb. As the mummy of King Tut was being put into the scanner for performing a CT scan, angry winds stirred and dark clouds covered the stars. The weather had been overcast all day, and the night sky was hidden by dark-bellied clouds. The CT scan was being done to unearth the remaining medical mysteries that surrounded the untimely death of this young king who died more than 3,300 years ago. King Tut's tomb lies 26 feet underground in the ancient Egyptian cemetery known as the Valley of the Kings. Tourists from around the world came to visit the tomb to pay their respects. They gazed at the murals of the walls of the burial chamber and looked at King Tut's gilded face on the lid of his outer coffin. The visitors were curious and thoughtful. Some feared the pharaoh's curse would befall those who disturbed him. Howard Carter was a British archaeologist who, in 1922, discovered King Tut's tomb after years of futile searching. its contents remain the richest royal collection ever found. They were dazzling works of art in gold that had caused a sensation then and continue to draw people's attention even today. King Tut was also buried with everything such as board games, bronze razor, cases of food, clothes, wine, etc., that he would need in life after death. Zahi Hawass, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, explained that the mummy was in a very bad condition because of what Howard Carter did to it. Howard Carter found King Tut's body in 3 nested coffins. In the first coffin, he found a shroud decorated with garlands of willow and olive leaves, wild celery, lotus petals, and cornflowers, which indicated that the burial took place in March or April. When he finally reached the mummy, he ran into trouble. The ritual resins had hardened, cementing King Tut to the bottom of the gold solid coffin. Howard Carter tried to loosen the resins by putting the mummy outside in the sun that heated it to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. For several hours, the mummy was set outside in blazing sunshine, but nothing happened. He reported that the tough material had to be cut from under the limbs and drunk to free the king's remains. The royals in King Tut's time believed that they could take their fortune with them after death. Hence, King Tut was buried with all his expensive belongings. To separate King Tut from his ornaments, Howard Carter's men removed the mummy's head and cut off nearly every major joint. Then they reassembled the remains of the body on a layer of sand in a wooden box with padding. Archaeology has changed since then, focusing less on treasures and more on the fascinating details of life and fascinating mysteries of death. It also uses more sophisticated tools. In 1968, more than 40 years after Howard Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor x-rayed the mummy and revealed an astonishing fact that beneath the resin that caked King Tut's chest, his breastbone and front ribs were missing. King Tut's demise was a big event, even by royal standards, as he was the last ruler of his family. His funeral meant the end of a royal dynasty, but the facts of his death and its consequences are unclear. King Tut's mummy was the first mummy to be CT scanned. On the night of the scan, workmen carried him from the tomb and rose it on a hydraulic lift into a trailer that held the scanner. However, initially, the costly scanner could not function properly because of sand in the cooler fan. But soon, all the hurdles were crossed, and after the scan, the king was returned to his coffin to rest in peace. The CT scan showed an astonishing image of King Tut and his entire body very clearly. It showed a grey head, neck vertebrae, a hand, several images of the rib cage, and a section of the skull. Zahi Hawass was relieved that nothing had seriously gone wrong, as the technicians left the trailer. They saw the star constellation which the ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of afterlife. They felt as if the god was watching over the boy king. An overview. This is an account of the discovery of King Tut's tomb in 2005 using modern technology. Tut, the teenage king and the last heir of a powerful Egyptian dynasty, had an untimely death, and there have been many speculations about its cause. After years of futile searches, Howard Carter, a British archaeologist, discovered Tut's tomb in 1922 and, for the first time in history, documented the treasures that lay buried with the king. The Secretary General of Egyptian Supreme Court of Antiquities, Zahi Hawass, informed that Tut's mummy was in a very bad shape due to Carter's act of discovery. This was because the ritual resins used to mummify the body had cemented it to the coffin. Therefore, Carter's men had to cut the mummy from under the limbs and trunk in order to lift it out. Later on January 5, 2002, under Zahi Hawass supervision, Tut's mummy was scanned using a CT scan machine and then carried back to his tomb. The royal mummy underwent a CT scan. Hundreds of tourists from the world over flocked to the rock-cut tomb and paid respect to the boy pharaoh. The CT scan revealed images of the mummy's head, hand, and ribcage. Hawass was relieved to see that Carter's examinations had not caused much harm to the mummy.